Hi and welcome to WarHQ. My name is Lucius. Today we are looking at part 5 of our Warriors of Renown series. What we're looking at today is the Heratic Astartes gunner. Now, what makes the Heratic Astartes gunner as good as it is? Is it those funky metal shoulder pads? Is it that vacant stare in their eyes? Let's examine that today by looking at their strengths, their weaknesses, what specialisms are available to them, the best sub-factions to use with them, or legion traits, and tactics that you could possibly use. Now, what makes the Heratic Astartes gunner a solid model? Now, the best thing to start with is that they are a very tough model. Like all Marines, they have transhuman physiology, which makes them ignore the first flesh wound that they take, so that's not going to affect their shooting ability if they suffer one flesh wound, which is great. They also have a 4 toughness and a 3+ save like all other Marines, and this makes them very durable and hard to take out. So putting those expensive weapons on them is going to pay off in the long run. The next one I would talk about is their greater shooting ability. Now, like all Marines, they have a 3+ for shooting, and that shouldn't be overlooked. The weapon system options that I have available to them probably is their standout feature, and they have quite a lot available. For example, one gunner in your kill team may replace their bolt gun with a flamer, a melt gun, or a plasma gun, whilst the other gunner in your kill team may replace their bolt gun with a heavy bolter, an autocannon, or a missile launcher. So that's 6 fairly solid options that you can take for your Heratic Astartes gunners. Now, the autocannon is probably one of the standout weapons here. It has a 48-inch range, which means everything is pretty much going to be in short range for you. It has a heavy 2 characteristic. Now, that's 2 shots, but with the heavy specialism, as we'll talk about later, you'll be able to make that 3 shots by spending a command point. It's a strength 7 weapon, -1 AP, and 2 damage. And the 2 damage here is probably the standout there. So potentially, with the heavy specialism you upgrade, you could get 3 attacks and at that profile, which is pretty strong. Another weapon there they have is the flamer. It's just a standard 80-inch D6 flamer with a 4 strength. Handy, but it's all instant auto hits, which is very useful. Now the heavy bolter, this one's a weapon of esteem amongst all Marines really. 36-inch range, heavy 3, so if you took the heavy specialism again you could get that to 4, which is pretty handy. 5 strength and a -1 AP. The melter gun, now this is for taking out the biggest, baddest, ugliest mothers around. 12-inch range, assault 1. 8 strength, -4 AP, and a D6 damage. And when you're at half range, you roll 2 dice when inflicting damage and choose the highest result, which is very powerful. Now the missile launcher, this is probably my second choice with the autocannon. It has 2 profiles. One of them is frag missiles, so that's heavy D6, 4 strength, and 1 damage, 40-inch range again, which is quite powerful. And it also has the crack missile available to it as well, which is 48-inch range, heavy 1. Unfortunately cannot be increased with the heavy specialism. Strength 8, -2 AP, and D6 damage. So honestly, like if you were going to choose between the melter gun or the missile launcher, you'd choose the missile launcher, because the crack missile is pretty much, besides there's a couple of points of AP there on the melter gun, the missile launcher itself can potentially, is more versatile, is probably the best way to put it. It's nearly the same profile minus the AP with the crack missile, but then you can also use the frag missile with the D6 hits against smaller targets that are easy to kill. Rounding out this list, you have the plasma gun. Now the plasma gun, as everyone knows, you can use it normally or you can overcharge it, or supercharge it as they call it. Rapid fire 1, so you're getting 2 shots within half range. Normal profile is a 7 strength, -3 AP, and 1 damage, while supercharged, it is 8 strength, -3 AP, and 2 damage. But just keep in mind, if you roll an unmodified hit roll of 1, then you're taken out of action. So that is, you're taking a risk there, especially with a model that is going to be quite expensive, like the missile launcher gunner. So have a good think about that. And finally, it has a good number of specialist options available to the model as well. For example, as we've already talked about, it has the heavy specialist. So the heavy specialist is great. A lot of these weapons like the missile launcher and the autocannon are heavy weapons, so this enables you to move and shoot, which is very important. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to, and that would limit you somewhat as a gunner. So it's definitely an auto-include to keep a heavy specialist with you. You can also get the +1 attack on any weapons with a profile of over 1 starting attack, which is most of them, with exception to the crack missile and the melter gun. Now, the next one I would talk about also is the demolition specialist, which is quite handy. There's a couple of strength 7 weapons in there, which is the plasma gun not overcharged and the autocannon, sorry. Those, as a demolition specialist, could be very handy. You could increase that strength to 8, which would double most Marine characters then, making it easier to wound your opponents. So keep those ones in mind. And you also have the sniper specialist. Now, the sniper specialist is always good because you're re-rolling ones, right? So that could be useful on any of those platforms as well. And that is the strengths. Like all Marine models, the Heratic Astartes gunner is expensive. It's a base cost of 13. Now, all weapon upgrades cost 3 on this, except for the missile launcher, which costs 5. But they're all quite powerful options, and they do give you a diverse range of things that you can choose for different situations you might come across in Kill Team. Now, the model itself is vulnerable to enemy fire from heavy weapons, but you could pretty much say that about any model within Kill Team. I mean, everything's going to suffer from like a railgun or something like that, or a venom cannon. It's just how it is. But the problem is when one of these gets taken out, it is worth quite a considerable chunk of your Kill Team, being with it between 16 to 18 points of your Kill Team. So you're just going to have to keep that in mind. You do have quite an expensive model that's a platform for this shooting. But, that's the same for everything. And the only other thing is that you have the locked weapon options for this model. So the gunners are really limited in the fact that one of them, you can't just choose any heavy weapons you want, really. You've only really got 3 options between 2 models, if you look at it that way. So the first model is able to take a flamer, a melter gun, or a plasma gun, while the second model is able to take either a heavy bolter, an autocannon, or a missile launcher. I think if you would have had the option between maybe taking the missile launcher and the autocannon, that would have been very powerful, but you are limited in that respect. But there are a number of weapons within both those options which are quite powerful for the Heratic Astartes gunner. So taking a look at the sub-factions you can take, or the Legion traits, there's really only a couple that stand out. There's not many specific to shooting, but one that is very powerful is the Iron Warriors Siege Lords. So models in your Kill Team do not suffer the penalty to injury rolls for the target of their attacks being obscured and within 1 inch of the model or piece of terrain that is between the 2 models. So that means instead of getting that -1 to injure if something's obscured, which most things are going to be, you're not going to be, which will bring you back to a 50-50 chance of killing any model on an injury roll, which I think is definitely worth it. If you're going to go around, like say you're shooting and these heavy weapons are going to be the core of your team. The other one that stands out is the Alpha Legion. So with the Alpha Legion, models from your Kill Team are considered to be obscured to enemy models that target them if they are more than 12 inches away from those models. Now there's some very good long-range options for this particular force and these guns. So the missile launcher, the autocannon, the heavy bolter, all have really long range. So if you're going to sort of focus your team around that kind of thing, then you're always going to be obscured when beyond 12 inches of an enemy model. Could be an option. There is another one there, the Black Legion, Black Crusaders. With this one, you're able to basically choose rapid fire weapons and shoot them as if they were assault weapons. But unless you're going to go really the plasma gun, there's not really a lot of point in that, in my eyes. It's only really that one gun that gets that bonus, so not really worth it overall. There are a few specific tactics that can really benefit your Heratic Astartes gunner. Probably the best one you can use is the Endless Cacophony. Now, just keep in mind that your gunner is going to have to be a worshipper of Slaanesh to be able to use this. You need that as your keyword. Otherwise, you won't be able to use this. But I do think that Slaanesh gunners are probably the best anyway. So I would recommend it, unless you're going a Khorne-specific team or something else, or Zench, or whatever you want to do. Now, with this one, you can basically choose one model with a Slaanesh keyword that has already been chosen to shoot once in this phase. That model can shoot again. So that's super powerful. So you can imagine this with the autocannon would be super powerful. I mean, being able to shoot again, if you're using a heavy specialism as well, you could get 3 shots, and then you could also shoot again with another 2 shots. So that'd be super strong if you can imagine it like that. Another one is blessed with resilience. So again, this is another keyword specific one. So your gunner would have to be Nurgle keyword. And basically you can add 1 to the toughness characteristic of that model until the end of the battle round for 1 command point. So this would be really important if you're sort of dug into a position, you've got a Nurgle gunner, and you're more sort of going for defense, like you don't want to get your gunner taken out. This could increase their toughness to 5, which would make them a lot harder to kill with most small arms and weapons. Another one is Let the Galaxy Burn. Now this is 2 command points. Use this tactic at the start of the shooting phase. Choose an objective on the battlefield. Until the end of the phase, reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by models from your kill team that target enemy models within 3 inches of that objective. It's quite expensive for what it is, I guess, but it can be important. I mean, you're going to say use the missile launcher with the frags. You can reroll all 1s or anything you're doing. You really need to take out a target. It might be an option. It might be a last-ditch effort. Have a think about that one. And finally, I'd say the last one is Veterans of the Long War, which is a pretty standard one. So use this tactic when Chaos Space Marine or Terminator model from your kill team is chosen to attack in the shooting or fight phase. You can add 1 to wound rolls for models that target Imperial models until the end of that phase. So again, it's situational, it's expensive for 2 points, but you might just want that extra bit of strength. Like say you're not the demolition specialist, and you want to get that extra 1, on your wound rolls. Pretty important. You might be able to double, you just give you that little bit of an edge in shooting again. Again, very situational. So there we have the Heratic Astartes gunner. Now the Heratic Astartes gunner, I mean, they're pretty cool models. They have lots of different options available to them. Pretty much all round. They're a solid shooting platform. You can get a lot of work done with them. If you make them Slanesh, you can get shoot twice in 1 round if you're going to spend the CP. Just overall solid model and definitely worth your bang for your buck. And that is why I list them as a warrior of renown. Now, if you like this content, please consider subscribing to our channel, like, comment, and all the usual things. And we look forward to you in the next one that we do of this series. If you have any suggestions also for what we could do in our next Warriors of Renown, please leave them below. Always interested to consider. I generally like to use the models that I have painted, because what that does for me is it inspires me to want to paint these models to be able to then do an episode on them. If I don't have the model painted, I kind of think, oh, well, what do I know about it? I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into these little suckers, as you can see. So, if you like this and you want to see more, then yeah, stick around. And for now, I'm Lucius, and it's WarHQ, and I'm signing out.